Hi, I'm Marissa, and somehow it's only been 2 weeks of being full-time, self-employed, working on fiber arts things. This last week has been really productive again, but also very overwhelming. I have a lot of stuff to do, not just like for my work stuff, but also for like a lot of personal things. We're halfway through the month, and July is going to be real busy for us with a bunch of just personal things. So we're just trying to get a bunch done before then. Yeah, it's been busy. Combination of wanting to get my update for my Apple Watch row counter app out to allow multiple row counters, to finally move my website to Astro so that I can update it and include that update information. Finish tying up my countermarch loom, working on the layout of the demonstration that I have next week with the elderly seniors on fiber arts. I also have a lot of hemming I need to do. I am helping my friend who's getting married with a bunch of the bridesmaid dresses and hemming them so that they fit everyone nicely. Because I've been busy hemming and working on my website so that it's ready for this update, I haven't had time to finish tying up my countermarch loom. I got to the point where the warp is now on the warp beam of the loom, but I haven't cut the warp at all so that it's threaded correctly. I had pre-slayed the reed so that I can get it on the loom. So far, I think with tying up the loom, getting the warp on the beam might have been the hardest part for me. I did the pre-slaying on the reed, and that was actually not too bad. I had to just make sure that the thread was put in order, and if I had done everything correctly when I was warping, then it should work fine. So I think one mistake I had during the pre-slaying is that I had pulled the yarn too much. And it's funny, I watched the video and they were like, don't pull the yarn, it might make the tangling worse. And so that did happen, but luckily I didn't tangle anything up, and I just had to triple check to make sure that I was picking the right yarn that was next, basically. Which is very tedious because it's like 80 strands of yarn to keep track of. And that's not even like the whole reed that it can fit. So I did that, got the warp on the tie-up sticks on the warp beam, and then I had to get Burton to help me pull the warp from the other side so that I can then reel it in. The first time I messed up because I actually don't know what I'm supposed to do with this, but there's like the start of my warp and the end of my warp is just a loop. That was actually just loose when I tried to put it on because everything else is just a loop. And so I somehow forgot that, and that was loose, and had to reset the whole thing so that the tension was right, because I had one strand that was just hanging out and not in the actual beam. And got the loop onto the stick from both the end of the warp and the start of the warp, because those were the loose strands. So I got that on, and then I redid it again. But then I forgot to put the, are they called like warp sticks that you put as you're reeling in? I don't know if it helps with tension or help keep the yarn all separated when it's rolled up like that in the warp beam. So I had to undo that again and then go back and like reel it in again onto the warp beam, and finally got it done. Hopefully, I don't know if it actually was done correctly. I don't see any tangles, so I think I did the order of the yarn correctly of when I put in each order of the dents. I don't know if I'm explaining this well, but it might not be the greatest first weaving project on my countermarch, and that's okay. At least I learned how to do it the first time, and it's a small warp, so I don't have to worry about wasting so much yarn. I also want to just comment that posting videos is a lot of work. I knew it was a lot of work, and I knew that editing videos is going to be a lot of work. I try to keep the editing minimal, but I end up spending a lot of time, so hopefully as time goes on I get more used to recording videos and editing them, that it'll be more efficient and I figure out ways to save some time. But not only that, not only just posting the video and getting it on YouTube and editing that video, I also have to figure out what part of the video I should clip so that I can then post on Instagram and the shorts or whatever on YouTube. So that has also been a little bit of work for me to figure out. And I finally figured out how to get the sizing correctly so that it fits on a reel and on a short, on a phone screen basically. So yeah, so that'll be kind of a ongoing thing of like figuring that out. Hopefully it doesn't get too fatiguing of having to record and edit and post videos. But I'm still hoping to post the warping and tying up my countermarch loom whenever I finish that. Like I said, I've been working on my website a bunch with the move from Nux to Astro. I felt really good this week with getting my website out there. I felt like a real web developer. I had my new website designed on Figma that I made myself, and then basically used that design to recreate my new website layout. And so it's very satisfying realizing what the bug is and figuring it out on my own. I can't even remember what bugs I had that I got stuck with. I think figuring out how to get fonts to work was really fun. I realized that my arissamakes.com website was not working when it had www.arissamakes.com. And so I was able to fix that in our Cloudflare admin. And yeah, I think I can just show you. Okay, so here's my remake of my website. I had fun with these little colored links. Whenever I hover over them, they change color. Yeah, it looks really, really nice. Then I also made sure it's mobile friendly, so she did that. Look at that. Our company website, Barissa LLC, needs to be updated so that it is mobile friendly. I have the homepage all done. I have my pattern page with the "Thank goodness you're here" crochet doll, and the download button works. My privacy policy for the Arissa Makes row counter app. I still need to work on the row counter page. I have the web version of the row counter, but because I'm moving to Astro, I'm gonna need Burton's help to get that all done, and he wants to make sure that that matches the code on the Apple Watch. And so I'll just be creating the page for now of the Apple Watch row counter and a link to it with some screenshots and description of all that. So that's what the page is going to include. And yeah, you can see my Figma design right here, and it's not that different from what I had finalized right here. I'm really excited about my new homepage and excited that I was able to do that as well. So this week, Bert and I had our weekly meeting yesterday to talk through the statuses of all the things that we're working on. He is very close to getting the multiple row counter support done, so that should be ready next week for testing. And got a lot of work done when we were at Vulpine again, and that's where I was able to finish a bunch of the pages for my website. We were able to successfully pick new insurance that starts next month. That was very stressful, like I mentioned last week. And I'll have to find a new doctor, sadly. I mentioned my website and how much progress I made with that. Not only do I need to get the row counter page ready for next week, I am hoping that I get some sort of blog and newsletter prepared so that I can update people on like updates and new features for the row counter. I don't know if I'll get it done next week, but at least try to get it done. And since this is Burton and I's first time starting a business and all of that, we're trying to figure out how everything works with our business, and we've worked together in the past. That's how we actually met. We were coworkers. That's very different than starting a business and me being the main person on our business while he's helping me and working on a lot of the technical things of the company and basically just supporting me with anything that I need help with. So we had written up a clear list of responsibilities that we think both of us are involved in, and that was really good and helpful of making things clear and what our expectations are for each other and for ourselves. And so I have since created that doc and printed it out so that we can just, if we need to reference it, it's there. But yeah, it was getting kind of blurred between like our meetings of like talking through just home tasks versus like work tasks, and so we are now trying to separate home tasks and work tasks. Like insurance feels kind of this weird gray area, but I think that is more of a home task, or budgeting is a home task versus a work task. So yeah, we're still navigating it, and we're trying to figure out the balance of that. There's definitely been a few times where I've caught myself wanting to talk about work things at like 9 p.m. I'm like, no, like we need to separate. 9 p.m. is not the time to talk about work. We can do that tomorrow, during like work hours and stuff. So far, I think we've figured some of the stuff out, and I want to flesh things out a little bit more. Yeah, just having things there for us to not have to like worry about if things were to during like a very stressful situation, so that like if things are stressful, we have these things in place so that we don't have to really think about it during a stressful time, basically. Anyway, I forgot to mention as well that last week I went to a networking event with Washington Women's Business Center. They do a networking event quarterly, I guess, and they partnered with Business Impact Northwest on hosting an event. And so it was a bunch of ladies who own small businesses. I wasn't sure what the vibe would be and if I would enjoy and would connect with anyone, but actually I connected with a bunch of people, and it was really awesome to meet so many women working on things. I even invited my mom to the event too, because she's an insurance broker and has her own business as well. And so it was fun to be able to do that event with my mom too. So the priorities for this week that I'll be working on is first the demonstration class outline with the elderly seniors. I need to set up my rigid heddle loom for the demonstration, and that should take too much time. I need to find some just scrap cardboard to make little looms from. I then want to finish my website update. I need to work on the row counter page, and bonus if I can get a blog and newsletter set up. I also need to figure out how to change the titles for each page. I think I found a article on how to do that with Astro, since right now it just says Arissa Makes on all the pages, and I wanted to say like Arissa Makes row counter, Arissa Makes privacy page, Arissa Makes pattern. Now that I'm like looking at this whole list, I don't know if I'll have time to do this, but I'm hoping that I can start editing this video that I have from last year of when I took a class on weaving in Khon Kaen, Thailand. So fingers crossed. I have time. My status on my fiber arts projects. I'm still working on my dress. I do need to try it on to see where the length is so that I know when to stop knitting. and then I can start working on the sleeves. My Copa crop shirt, I finally finished the gauge swatch, but I think my gauge is a little too big. You're supposed to block the swatch, but I think because it's too big, blocking it would just make it bigger, right? So I think I just need smaller hooks and to try crocheting the gauge again and see if it matches the gauge of the pattern. But the colors are looking really nice. I love it. Then I also have a bunch of hemming that I've been working on. I finished my dress and my outfit for my friend's wedding. I had some extra fabric from the aoyai that I had to cut to shorten. And look, I made a little scrunchie. The pattern um and it's just bright pink, and I love bright pink. All right, I think that is it for me. I will see you next week. Bye.